All right. Hello viewers. So this is about installation of Git. In the last video, we had discussed all about the basics of MLOps, right? We had seen, I had just explaining what is actually Git, okay, for managing the projects, MLOps projects, for version controlling, okay, and for kind of for deployment purpose also. For there are a lot of use cases for which, like for example, I have to deploy on a server, okay. So server deployment also it can help a lot, right? So when we go for the Git, as I told you, we have to create. We should know how to create repository. Now there are two kinds of repository, okay. So the two kinds of repository we can say like this. The first one is what? Local repository, and the second one is what? The remote repository, right? So what's the difference between these two guys? Okay. So we have discussed the local repository will be existing in your system, right? That means you can create in your system, and the remote repository you have to create over the cloud. Okay. So this is what remote. Now there are a lot of, you know, uh, service providers are there. Okay, there are a lot of cloud services are there, such as GitHub, GitLab. Okay, so here you can use these guys, you can use for creating the remote repository. Okay, there is one more process. It's like, you're just developing anything on your local repository, and everything is developed when you think that okay, now it is done. And then you can also push the local repository into the remote repository. These all things we will discuss. Okay, now, what is local repository or what is repository? Okay, the difference between a directory and repository, right? So, see, if we have a directory, okay, so directory is something in which we store some files, folders, something, right? In repository, also we will store the projects, right? But there is a file, there is a specific file that will exist in a local repository. Okay, there is a specific, you can say, folder in which so many configurations will be created automatically. It will be created when you create a local repository, right? Now to create a local repository, you required what? You need to install Git into your system. So here is the installation instruction. Okay, you can install in Windows or you can install in what? Mac. Okay, for installation in Windows, this is a link. Okay, you can go to this link, and thereafter you can, sorry, this is a Mac, right? You can go to that link and you can install it for your Windows system. Simple. Okay, very simple installation. In case if you have Mac system, you can go here and then you can use it. Brew install Git. Okay, so I'll show you. Suppose if I have to install this Git, already I have Git in my system, but still if I want to install it, I need to go do what? I need to go to this terminal, and what I told you, brew install Git. All right. So when I do it, it will get installed, but it is already there, right? So it may show me output like this is already present, or it may just do some sorts of update. Right. That means if it is installed, that means I can create repository in my system, right? Using Git. Okay. Now, how can we create a repository? And also there is a procedure for that. Okay. We have a command for that, and few commands I had already given over here. Okay. If you go to this link, after the installation, here is what the command. It is a Mac installation. Okay. Once the installation is done, you can check the installation by doing what? By giving the command git version. Okay. So command you will be same. Okay. After the installation, command will be same. If you are using Windows or you are using Mac, the command will be same. Okay. So like these are the commands that we can use, right? So let's see, it is still installing. Let it be installed, and thereafter we will give the command. This is a command to check the version. Okay. So let's see, we'll give this command and then we'll go ahead, right? Okay, so it is still getting installed. Let's wait for a few seconds so that it can get installed. All right, so you can see it has been installed now. Okay, so it takes about 1 or 2 minutes to get installed. Okay, so once it install, if you give the command over here, okay, which git version, right? Let's say git version. Okay, so it will just return which version is installed. As it is showing the version, that means it is successfully installed. Okay, next what we have to do, if you see, I had given over here few more configurations. So it is what? These are just setting some variables. Okay, these are just setting some variables of your git, right? So they consist, we have to do what? We have to do some settings. They consist of variables and their values, and they are stored in a couple of different files. To work with git, you must set these configurations, right? So let's say if I pass this first command, okay, global list, right? So what I get? So it is showing over here my username, okay, email address, and branch. Okay. In case if I want to change it, I can change it. Okay, so what it means over here, this is my username, right? Bipul MLOps, right? That means Git is currently recognizing me with this username, with this email ID. And when we will go for the branching, okay, the default branch, the first branch, the root branch that will be created will have a name main. Okay, so these are already I had this set over here, right? If you want to set in your system, you can just do it like this. Okay, and thereafter you can do what, you can just run this thing, okay, to access the information. Okay, so it will just give you the information, right? So it shows that, okay, Git is successfully installed. Next we have to do what, we have to work with a local repository. Okay, now for working with a local repository, what is required, we have to run the command git init. Okay, where should I run the command? I have to, it's like we have to run this command in a directory which I want to make a local repository, right? There must be a directory where which should be made as a local repository, right? So what I will do, let's see, I'll go to the directory over here, AICMLOps, where it is, this is basically present in documents. So I'll go to documents, right? Okay, now what is a present working directory? This one. Now I'll go towards CD. Okay, the folder name is what, AIC underscore MLOps, AIC underscore MLOps. Okay, name is correct. Yeah, seems to be. Let's say present working directory, this one. Now I can make a directory over here. Let's say within this thing I am making a directory, my, or you can say first, or it's a let's make it a local repo. Okay, I'll just give it a name, local repo. That's it. Okay, local repo. So let's see now. I'll do what, I'll just cross check, is it created? Yeah, it is created. Now I can do what, I can go to this local repo. Okay, and now my current working directory is what, this one. Now I'll just trigger a command git init. So when I trigger a command git init, this repository will be, this directory will be converted into repository. Right now if you see, I don't have any files within it. Okay, even I don't have any kinds of, hidden folder within it. Okay, but when I run this thing git init, it says what, initialize empty git repository. Now if I go to this thing, it is what, created. That means now it is turned into a local repository. When I open it, there are few files, few folders are there. Obviously these 5 folders, we are the configuration file that is created by default, okay, which will help us to handle this repository. Okay, so my local repository is created, git init. Okay, thereafter it is saying what, git status, right? So let's run this thing git status. Okay, so when I run this git status, it is saying that I don't have any commit, I don't have any branch. Okay, that, okay, we have a main branch, but in that branch I don't have any commit. Now question is, what is commit, right? See, when you work on a project, you have to work on 3 stages. Okay, first you write your code. Okay, now your code will go into a staging area. First your code will go into the staging area, and then it will be committed. Okay, commit means what, final commitment. After that it can be used, right? So staging area, and then it can be committed. So as of now there is no commit. We will discuss this thing in more detail. Okay, now we can do what, I can create a file over here. Suppose I want to create a file. So let's create a file over here. Okay, which file I'll create? I'll just create this particular file. Okay, to create a file I have to run the command git add file1. Okay, that means I want to create a Python file. Okay, so let's create it. It is saying what, file1 did not match any file. Why it is saying like this? Because we don't have any file over here, isn't it? So let's go back to our coding environment, right? And let's try to create a file over there. Okay, so here it is, my, I am in the local repository, right? Now in the local repository, I'll create a file and I'll give it a file name, file1.py. Okay, now my file is created, right? And let me give it a name, hello. Okay, print hello world. Hello world. Okay, I had given it a name, hello world. All right, now save it. Done. I saved it, right? So now my directory is having that particular file. Okay, in which directory right now we are? We are in the same directory. Let me trigger this file, python 3 file1.py. Okay. Now, when I want to trigger this file, what it is saying? It is not getting executed. Okay. If I see over here, we have file1.py. Okay. But the name that we had given is wrong. Okay. So that's why file1.py. So now it is getting executed, isn't it? So now my file is getting executed, right? Now, if I want to use this file, okay, for my kind of through my Git, right? I have to do what? I have to first do this thing. That is Git add. That means I am going to add this file into the Git. Okay, I am going to add. It is being created within the folder, but I have to add it, right? As of now, if I'll check Git status, let's see what it is showing. We have no commit, but when I run this thing, Git add file1.py. When I add it, and thereafter, if I'll check the status, what it is saying? No commit yet. Okay, we have a new file change to be committed. Okay, that means my file is created and now my file is at the staging area. Okay, where is it? It is at the staging area, which needs to be committed, right? So to commit it, what I have to do? I have to run this thing, git commit. Okay, git commit. Okay, then message slash hyphen m, and this is called, this stands for, m is for message. Okay, so let's see, I'll write over here git commit m. Okay, and let's say I'll give it a name version 1. Okay, this is my first commit, so I'll give it a name version 1, right? So now if I execute it, it is saying one file changed, one insertion, like this. Now if I'll check git status once again, it is again saying nothing is there. Okay, so what we did, we had now created a file, we had assigned it to Git, and then if I'll check Git log, okay, so in the Git log we have a main branch, and in the main branch we have the first version is created. Okay, now if I will make change in the file, okay, so again version 2, version 3 will be created. Okay, so that's the version control thing I'll tell you in the next video. In the current video, what we had discussed, let's have a quick revision, right? So what we had discussed over here, what is Git like how can we create a Git repo, okay, and repository. Why Git repository is mandatory? At this stage we are learning using Git repository how can we work with a version control. We will work with different versions of file, and Git will manage all my versions. Okay, anytime if I want version 1, suppose I created version 5, okay, and after some time I think that no, I need version 1, so Git will give back me version 1. I don't have to save 5 files. Okay, I don't like version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. I don't have to save it. Only one file I will save, right? But Git will do what? Git will manage all those versions, right? So that management, that kind of things will be done by the Git. So we had seen how can we create a local repository, first thing. Second thing, how can we create a Python file within that local repository? Done. Third thing, we had seen how actually it works. How it works, if we have a project directory, first of all, let's say this is my what? Project directory. Okay, directory. Okay, now within the project directory, I will divide it into two parts. Okay, first I will make it what? There is a working directory. Okay, and then we will do what? We'll just make it the next thing is what? It's like local repository, right? So what's the difference between them? Let's discuss it. Okay, so this is my what? Working directory. Okay, where we have created a file, right? Okay, so working directory. Okay, and next we have what over here? This is what? This is our local repository. Okay, our local repository. Okay, with the file.git. Nice. Okay, and this local repository is having two parts. Okay, one is a staging area, and other one is what? Our commit history. Okay, so now what it does in the staging area, when you run staging area, it means when you execute over there what? Git add, when you had executed, like here you created a file. Okay, here you created a file. What file? File1.py. Nice, this is done. Next, in the staging area, you want to manage this file through Git. So in the staging area, we will run git add file1.py. Okay, so this is what you did. And then if you want to commit this file, what you will do, we have to do over here commit. This is what commit history. This will manage your commit history, isn't it? So commit history is having what? Is basically having something. If you want to use it, you have to run git commit, okay, m message, okay, and then you have to give the message, right? What message you can give? Whatever, like for example, we had given what? Version 1. Okay, done. So now this is being committed. Okay, so in this way we can create multi. So commit is just one version of a file. Okay, if I have to explain, if you have to write over here, what do you mean by commit? So commit is just the one version of your project. Okay, a commit is, okay, one version of a project. Okay, it is what? It is just a one version of a project. Okay, and what is staging area? A staging area, you can say, is a draft space. Okay, a staging area, okay, just a minute, let me just write it with a proper space. The staging area is a draft space. Okay, it is a draft space. Okay, so we can create multiple files over here. Okay, if I want, or we can create a single file, right? And we can just make the changes in that and can maintain the version will be maintained by what? By the git commit. All right, so this is what we had seen. In the next session we'll see how this version control actually works, and how can you make use of this local repository as a git. Okay, thanks for viewing this tutorial.